executive branch and the judicial branch. You can't go looking for a fist fight when it's up against Muhammad Ali.
Right.
Right?
It is. It's Muhammad Ali holding that.
Yeah, the champ is the champ.
So they're going to have to make a smooth transition with instead of fighting it.
Just go vote. Every protest enrages the Republicans. Every time they point the finger, not saying that there shouldn't be consequence, because there should, but you got to pick when to strike too. And when to strike is when you have power, which you don't have right now. And so the people in power don't care. They don't care if you were sexually assaulted when you were a teenager. They don't care. That was never a question. They don't care. They don't care that you think black people are shot in the streets at disproportionate numbers to other people by the police. They don't care. They're not going to do anything about it. They don't care that immigration is actually on a net loss right now. They don't care. They preach their narrative, they have their agenda, and they go for it. If you want to fix these things, you've got to get back in power. And the way to do it is to quell their fire by stepping back and making sure people are voting on your side, giving them something to vote for. And the problem, because we have the two-party system, is while conservatives are voting for protection, they're voting for protection, the Democrats are voting against Republicans. They're not voting for the Democrats.
Right, it's against.
They're voting, and you're never going to win.
Shouldn't be against.
You're never going to win. And it's funny, I called this during the presidential election. I was talking to a friend of mine that I went to school with, and she's from, where is she from? One of the Eastern European countries, and she's my age. So when she was born there, it was still the Soviet Union. It was still a Soviet Union satellite state. And so she's over here now, and we had this conversation about, who do you think is going to win? And I said, my brain says Hillary's going to win, but my gut says Trump's going to win. And the reason for it is, Trump had the Republican base supporting him. Now, half of the people that voted for Trump voted against Hillary. Half of the people that voted for Hillary voted against Trump. What Hillary didn't have was the base. The base has moved. The base is now in the millennials, in the Zs, into the latter parts of Generation X.
The younger people.
The younger people who want Medicare for all, who socialism isn't a bad word.
Right, it's not a bad word.
It's just a word. It's an idea.
Yeah.
Fascism isn't necessarily bad. There are good things about fascism.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get rid of the racism and the nationalism and all that, but the idea that everybody has a place in society, and that everyone in the state has a place in the state and should be working toward the betterment of the state. Mm-hmm. We've seen that work.
It's not a bad idea.
It was called the Roman Empire, and they lasted for 500 years. Now, mind you, you wouldn't have wanted to live there, but there's a difference between, there are two types of people in the world, Romans and those who want to be Roman, versus we are the supreme race and all others should be either indoctrinated or eliminated. It's a whole different ball of wax, right? So everybody working toward the betterment of the state is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, and that's a good thing out of fascism. Communism, being totalitarian, that's awful. Gulag and all those sorts of things. But to each according to their needs and from each according to their abilities, it's not a bad approach.
It was a utopian idea.
It is.
But in reality, it had a lot of shortcomings. Fascism was a utopian idea.
The practical the applications that we got were bad. They were bad. Because eventually you don't have, there are some fundamental flaws to the way our world works. Like we were talking about with the Kavanaugh situation. If we go back to Harvey Weinstein, Trump, Bill Cosby, I'm trying to get both sides, Conyers and so forth. The big problem is you have these powerful people who see people as chattel toward their profit and their goals.
To their end.
To their end.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if I see the world that way, and I want to not even wait, we'll say, I'm going to do it. Because I live in a world without consequence. And I live in a world where people exist for me. And you exist, and you're within my purview. And I want, and therefore, you're going to give it to me.
Because they're privileged. They're all privileged.
They're privileged. They're sociopaths.
Yeah.
Because they've been raised to be narcissists, right? Kavanaugh is that way, whether he did it or not.
Right, he
immaterial.
is a privileged.
He is a privileged legacy child.
Right.
So when that's the mindset that you're dealing with, because I don't know exactly which generation it gives rise to the entitled narcissists, because it's not the first generation after the Rockefellers, right, or Carnegie or what. It's not their children. Their children were probably there while the teeth were being cut and the stones were being broken and the roads were being laid, and the grandchildren may have seen some of it. And they'll know the patriarch or the matriarch of that which was built, and that the legends will be there and all. But certainly by the time of the great-grandchildren, the legends are just legends. They have never wanted, they have never needed. The world is theirs, and they have been entitled to it since birth. So yeah, but that's who we're dealing with. That's Trump. That's Kavanaugh. Right. That's Wines. That's all these people we're dealing with.
The moneyed class.
That's right. And what's yeah. So if you have a class of people, and listen, Father Trump was a smart guy.
Apparently.
Okay.
He did very well.
Eric and Donald Jr. I mean, there is nothing going on there. Even the daughter,
Ivanka.
Yeah, Ivanka.
She created an empire.
I would like to see her come out of North Philly or Camden and do what she's done.
She didn't. She came out of that.
Out of moneyed wealth, right? So, I'm not impressed. Now, if you're Alexander the Great and you go from your dad conquering most of Greece to conquering the entire known world, all right, I'm impressed. But if all you did was conquer the rest of Greece, no one would be talking about Alexander. Right, he would just be some entitled child that took his daddy's army and finished what daddy had started. Right, we wouldn't be calling him the Great.
Right, he earned that title.
Right, so if you're, although I had a professor in I was doing my undergrad work, he called him Alexander the Psycho. Which it's not
too far.
Not a bad description. But yeah, when it's just the kids in there, they don't know. They were just handed it.
Maybe that's why Trump is a psycho. He was handed it.
That was the point of the estate tax. That was originally the point of the estate tax was to ensure that there was never a landed gentry. Right? That everybody had to work on their own merit. And you get a little ahead because daddy did better. But at the end of the day, you don't get to live off of dad's wealth. Dad's wealth came off the people that worked for him, came off the roads and the infrastructure that was built. And when dad dies, most of that comes back to us. Like a game of Monopoly, right? And the kids, sure, you get a little benefit, but you don't get such a leg up that there's no more competition for you. That was the point of the estate tax.
But they learned how to cheat and get around it.
Sure, they called it the death tax. And you, working at McDonald's, making $12,000 a year, you don't want a death tax, do you? What? If you don't feel comfortable calling your collection of stuff an estate, it does not affect you. Okay? It does not affect you.
Right.
But good messaging. Here we are. So we have a landed gentry. We are several generations into that landed gentry, and they're not. But the problem is, The gentry part isn't there. We have people in the positions of the aristocracy that were never bred to be aristocrats. They're idiots. They're entitled idiots.
Like the Trump children. They are aristocrats.
Yeah.
They are part of that now.
They are. They're landed,
Aristocracy.
but there's no gentry. Thank you for joining us for that clip of our weekly podcast. If you want to get more bonage footage or join us for the entire podcast, head on over to Patreon, where our Eagle, Tiger, and Dragon subscribers get access to not only what we cast and talk about, but advanced lessons in your forms, in your Tai Chi, and in your life.